This week on Wildcat News, we attend the Poetry Out Loud competition.
We sit down with the band and talk about their trip to Chicago.
And we discuss why other schools have an earlier end time.
All these stories and more are coming up because Wildcat News starts now.
Good morning, West Johnston. I'm Allison Wade.
And I'm Miranda Bean. Students recently competed in a Poetry Out Loud competition and a winner was chosen. Grayson Betts reports.
On November 14th, the Poetry Out Loud competition was held to determine who would represent the school at the county level. Senior Jenny Huan came out on top after only recently finding an interest in poetry.
I never really liked poetry until English 4. I thought poetry was very boring and I never pictured myself actually performing poetry until Mr. Vanderleski and Miss Scott actually convinced me and told me that I was a very good performer, so I just followed my instincts and tried it out. I did not expect to win last night. I was actually very pleased and shocked, but I'm very glad to represent West.
Last year's state participant, Kylie Van Ryan, returned to Poetry Out Loud, and she was honored to come back and perform at the place where her passion began.
It's a big passion of mine to be able to share poetry with the audience, and so and to perform and just to express emotions through poetry, and so to share that with the class before me was really amazing, and I loved being able to leave my legacy behind at West Johnston.
Van Ryan experienced reminiscent flashbacks when she performed for the first time.
It was crazy, like all of the memories kept rushing back, and I just remembered like when I first started, like it was kind of like I felt a little bit sentimental, you know, like I kind of missed it, but it just felt really good to get back up on the stage.
Juan believes poetry has a misconceived reputation.
I'm definitely not the person to be very passionate about poetry at all, but I just want to say that just because you're not passionate about it, but one of your strengths is public speaking or performing in front of people, that you should go for it.
I'm Grayson Betts, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Grayson. The Students Against Destructive Decisions Club had a member bring home a state title. Caroline Carlson reports.
Over the weekend of November 17th, the SAD, or Students Against Destructive Decisions Conference, was held. There, junior Nick Wilson won SAD Student of the Year and explains the qualities he feels that students should possess.
The ideal Student of the Year should be somebody that represents SAD in a positive light, that doesn't, I'm not going to say doesn't go to parties, but if they go to parties, they make the right decisions. They don't drink and they don't do drugs, and they don't let their friends do that either. They got to have a positive influence in their community and just always represent themselves and SAD in a positive manner.
Wilson believes he may have been a good candidate for SAD Student of the Year because of his commitment to the SAB board, where SAD students meet and talk about the details for that year's conference.
It was my second year on the SAB board, and I was really one of the only returning members. There was 2 other returning members, and so I was really the only one that was ever on time to all the meetings. And me and this other girl contributed to all the meetings. We chose the theme, and like we essentially only a small group of people just participated in these meetings. And so I think, along with my experience on the board and my leadership qualities during the meetings, allowed me to win.
Wilson explains his emotions after he was announced the winner.
I know it was going to be a pretty tight race between me and this other girl on the board. So when I was sitting there and I heard Miss Harriet call my name for Student of the Year, you know, I felt happy that like I had won, but at the same time I felt kind of bad for the other girl because she deserved it just as much as I did. And so I know that, you know, you can't have 2 winners and that one winner has to be chosen.
I'm Caroline Carlson, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Caroline. Over Thanksgiving break, the marching band paraded down the streets of Chicago. Over Thanksgiving break, the marching band traveled to Chicago to participate in Uncle Dan's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Senior Cameron Burton participated in the event and felt he was provided with a special opportunity, and shares how the Chicago parade was different from performing in previous events.
Usually the parades we go in are like local ones, like the Clayton Parade or the Cleveland Christmas Parade, but this was like a whole big city. You could look up, there's a skyscraper there, there's a whole bunch of buildings, a whole bunch of random people that you don't know, just like, I wonder who's watching. That could be like important down the road. Usually when we're in these parades, you march down, you play your music, or you stand there, you dance or whatever, and then you just kind of get it over with. But this one, I think everyone, because it was Chicago and it was like a generally big parade, everyone was actively engaged during the parade, so you could always take it all in. Like there was never a moment where I just felt like I just kind of zoomed through and, oh, it's the end. I can remember like every second of the parade.
Before the parade began, senior snare drummer Ruben Sims showed off his talent in an unexpected event.
All the bands were warming up in this parking lot downtown. After we warmed up and got our instruments all together, we were next to another band, and they were like, "Hey, can we play our music for you?"
At first, we just started with like stand tunes, just battling it off and doing that, and then their snare person just kind of walks out. It's like the movie drum line. That's like what it was. And I was like, "Whoa!" He walked up to our center snare, Ruben Sims, and they just kind of started going at it. And then the other dude started beating on Ruben's drum, which, you know, is like disrespect. You know, don't do that. So then Ruben just kind of got him back. It was really good because everyone was like, "Oh!" and we won.
Sims shares what helped make this event memorable.
I got to go down there with all these people that I've marched with, some for 4 years, some this is their first year, and I've made like really good friends, like family, in this program, and I really appreciated getting to go spend time with them in some faraway city and touring around, dancing, eating dinner. It was a good time.
I'm Miranda Bean, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Miranda. Now let's head over to Grayson Betts with the rundown.
I'm Grayson Betts and welcome to the rundown. Here's the last week's scores. Last Thursday, girls varsity basketball won 50-32, and boys varsity basketball lost 29-52 against Western Harnett. Friday, girls varsity basketball lost 38-32, and boys varsity basketball lost 68-39 against Harnett Central. Now for the game of the week.
Last Friday, boys varsity basketball hosted the Harnett Central Trojans. Justin Mediri assists Brandon Hicks, who puts it off the glass off a fast break. Kyrie Maddox fakes a three and steps in for an easy two. Brandon Hicks drives down the lane and scores off a floater. Brandon Hicks assists Carter Grooms in the post. The Wildcats lost 68-39.
Tomorrow, basketball is away and swim is home. Friday, basketball is away. Monday, basketball is home. Tuesday, basketball and swim are home. Come out and support your winter athletes. I'm Grayson Betts, and that's your week's rundown.
Thanks, Grayson. Some schools in Johnston County have an earlier release time than others. Mason Butcher reports.
At 2:25, the dismissal bell rings, but that's not the case for all Johnston County schools. Cleveland High School, along with others, has an end time of 2 p.m. Junior Kyle Denning believes an earlier end time would benefit students.
It would give us more time after school to do homework, or if we have work, get ready for work. A lot of times I feel myself rushing to get to work or something like that after school. And practice would start earlier, which means you'd have more time after practice to do homework or whatever you need to do at home.
The reason for the difference in end times is due to the arrival of the Choice Academy students, who pursue education in an alternative environment. Assistant Principal Melissa Finch believes we benefit from a later end time.
I do think we benefit from later end time because having that little bit of time at the end of the day allows us to have more instructional time during our day. And so I think having those 25 minutes allows us to have some instructional time that other schools may not have the privilege of having.
Although we have more time for instructional purposes, Finch believes an earlier end time has advantages as well.
I think that there are pros and cons to each situation. As I mentioned, it's great that we have different times during our day, or have more time during our day for students to work, but I also think that there are some benefits to the Choice Academy piece that could be beneficial as well.
Denning's overwhelming schedule leaves him hoping for an earlier end time.
It can be challenging to combine these things and still be successful in the classroom, as well as sports like practice. Same thing with that. You get home late, or if you have a game, you get home even later, and there's really no time to complete that work. And I think that the extra time given if we ended school earlier would create a buffer where you could do that homework.
I'm Mason Butcher, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Mason.
Well, that's all for us this week. If you have any comments, questions, or story leads, email us at wjstudentmedia@gmail.com or send us a tweet at wjstudentmedia.
And if you want to watch Wildcat News at home, on the go, or catch up on past episodes, go to wjstudentmedia.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Miranda Bean.
And I'm Allison Wade. Thanks for watching and have a great week.